sa kiri serang di rubang lalatakan untuk
Right Honourable John Key is now being received by the Minister for Education and the Minister of Staff and Maritime Development.
Not forgetting all the stakeholders, all the school administrators that we are sinners. We do fall short of.
Awan donu nangkona baturana. Kela makalala. Asa. Kima mo baka binibin nakatagyan ang lingan ni namu ni ubeng karabi. Abo nebu. Kima mo sama iraive ni kuwa sa baka botu kanataki. Mama.
It's great to be at Naiyala School to come and see you all. Can I just start by acknowledging the Minister of Education, Mr Reddy, and his associate, the Minister of Rural Affairs, and of course the New Zealand Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I think I'm the 38th Prime Minister of New Zealand. So there's been 38 of us, and I think I must be the first one that's ever come to Naiyala School. In fact, I'm the first Prime Minister of New Zealand to come to Fiji for 10 years, and I was last here about 13 or 14 years ago. So I've been very excited to come and see you all. And I've been Prime Minister for 8 years, so in the time that I've been Prime Minister of New Zealand, I've had an opportunity to go around quite a number of countries in the Pacific and to attend their schools and see the great things they're doing. And it's very exciting to come and meet you all. As Mr Reddy was saying, you had, of course, a terrible storm here with Cyclone Winston, which, as I'm sure you know, had winds of about 300 kilometres an hour. And it's the strongest recorded wind speed on land in the southern hemisphere. So in New Zealand, we would never get winds that strong. Maybe something about half of that would be a really, really major storm. So you can understand why it did so much damage. And it was great that New Zealand was able to come along and help the people of Fiji, and particularly to help rebuild your school. And I think you've had some other very generous people, Intech, if I think the company is right, that's also been amazingly generous in helping to get your school back on its feet. So every 3 years, the New Zealand government gives about $1 billion New Zealand dollars to help give aid and support to the people of the Pacific Islands. And we're increasingly giving more of that to Fiji because we want you to do incredibly well. And one of the things that we focus a lot on is education. So along with our friends from Australia, we've been very actively involved in trying to support the schools and all the things that you get to learn while you're at school, obviously your curriculum here in Fiji. I don't know how much you know about New Zealand schools. In a lot of ways, they're probably pretty similar to yours. But in New Zealand, you pretty much start school when you're 5 years of age. In fact, we have a sort of thing that you generally go to school when you have your 5th birthday, whatever day of the week that is, as long as it's not a Saturday or Sunday. You go off to school for on your 5th birthday. And most New Zealand young people stay until about 17 or 18 years of age. And these days, a lot of them go off to the universities we have or to polytechs or other places where they can do additional learning. I think in the cyclone you had about 60 odd, maybe 70 schools that were damaged. I don't know how many schools in total you have in Fiji, but in New Zealand we have just under 2,600 schools. So we have a lot of schools in New Zealand, and we've been doing lots of quite cool things at our school. So one thing we've been doing is trying to wire, in fact we've wired every school up in New Zealand to have ultra-fast broadband, so you can learn all sorts of things over the internet in our schools. And sometimes in the more rural schools, a bit like yours, which is out in the countryside, we'll have students taking lessons from a teacher that might be at the other end of New Zealand. So hundreds and hundreds of miles away, they'll be taking a lesson from that classroom. So we do all sorts of things. And the sort of subjects that our students learn have changed a lot over the years, so they're quite different. Anyway, I want to thank you for having me at your school. I'm really looking forward to having a good look around. I want to wish you all the very best. You probably know, but there are 50,000 Fijians who live in New Zealand. So a lot of your friends and family and stuff are probably in New Zealand. And every year, about 150,000 New Zealanders come and have a holiday in Fiji. So a lot of Kiwis come up here and have a good time. And the other thing you probably know is that our rugby team's called the All Blacks, and they're the world champions. So sorry about that. We've won it back to back. You know, in the entire time I've been Prime Minister, we've never lost a Rugby World Cup. That's a pretty cool record, isn't it? And tomorrow night we're playing Wales, and you guys are going to play Tonga, right? You're going to win? Yes. I can't hear you. You're going to win? I can't hear you. You're going to win? Okay, that's how a New Zealand crowd screams for the All Blacks. And we've got a couple of new big Fijian boys who are in our team, so they're playing tomorrow as well for the All Blacks. So anyway, thank you for having me at your school, and you make sure you study hard at school, and hopefully you'll go off to the University of South Pacific, or maybe you'll come and study in New Zealand. And I'm really looking forward to getting to meet some of you and see your teachers, and go the mighty Fijian team tomorrow. I hope they beat Tonga by a big score. Vanaka. Very nice to see you. The whole building collapsed? Wow. So you had to put all this back together? Yeah, well. Was the sort of heart of the storm here in Naiyala? This is where it really from?
You can imagine all the 18 year old fields, isn't it? And quite a few cows we saw away over here. I think it's been very successful. I mean, the aim of this visit was really to reset the relationship, to put the last sort of, I suppose, 8 years of the military coup behind us. Not to resolve from what we did, and I don't think the Fijian government is doing that either in terms of resigning from what they've done, but really to say, look, we're now on a new foundation stone. We want to take the relationship from strength to strength. And it's been great just to come out here, and looking forward to meeting some of the kids and just sort of seeing at a practical sense, you know, what New Zealand is doing. we also passed quite a few dairy farms along the way. New Zealand's keen on giving practical assistance there to try and develop their dairy industry. So, like Fiji, it's got a very special place in our hearts, and it's good to be here.
You wish you were staying longer?
Yeah, I do actually. Wouldn't mind seeing the Fiji and Tongan game tomorrow. I'm sure that's going to be a major event, but also an opportunity to have a look around a bit more would be great. But unfortunately, it's somewhat of a flying visit this time, but hopefully we'll do that.
Prime Minister is Fiji supporting Helen Clark's bid for the UN Secretary General?
Well, we're hopeful they will. They haven't indicated one way or the other yet. It's a little different from, say, a vote on the Security Council where every country has a vote. It's typically one of these things which is done in a slightly different way. Consensus is reached, and the permanent 5 members of the Security Council have lots of influence, but it would be great if Fiji would give its support for Helen Clark. We're going to support Peter Thompson for the presidency, and we're hopeful that he will be successful.
What do you think of Prime Minister Bainimarama's speech last night, and what he had to say about the New Zealand media?
Well, I mean, just in the overall speech, I wasn't surprised that he made the comments that he made. He's made those comments before, and he'll probably make them again, and he feels very strongly about the actions he took. New Zealand doesn't resolve from the steps that we took, because at the core of it, New Zealand cherishes and believes very strongly in democracy. We don't have a view on the constitutional changes, but we do have a view that change should take place through democratically elected governments. Having said all that, as I said last night, and as I've been saying when I'm here, the purpose of the trip is not to look back or to try and relitigate history. The purpose of the trip is to look forward. And New Zealanders are very fond of Fijians. There's a lot of Fijians living in New Zealand. There's a lot of New Zealanders that come here, so firsthand they get a chance to see what Fiji's like. They meet the people, they know that they're extremely friendly, kind and generous people, and so New Zealanders will always want to support Fijians.
So has there been any positive outcome from peace of plus negotiation talks with Myanmar?
Yeah, I think we're making progress there. There were some good discussions yesterday. Pacer Plus we see as really a development agreement, so it's an opportunity for basically countries around the Pacific to work in a more constructive way, make it easier for companies to do business and for development to take place, and really to create jobs. It's highly likely as a result of that New Zealand will have to make some sort of economic contributions to make that a little easier for everybody. But overall, one of the ambitions that we've always had as a government is to see development in the regions, and particularly in countries like Fiji, because then there are realistic jobs for people to go to. And while a lot of people from the Pacific want to come and live in New Zealand, an awful lot either want to return or stay here. So the big challenge for us is to make sure that economic development happens in those critical areas like tourism or and other things like agriculture.
So, regarding the Pacific Islands Forum, our Prime Minister has previously stated he will not attend the leaders' meeting until New Zealand and Australia are no longer full members. Your comments on that, and has any agreement been reached?
Well, I think it's important to understand, I made this point to the Prime Minister this morning, New Zealand will always be members of the Pacific Islands Forum, and that's because the Pacific Islands Forum is about the leadership that Australia and New Zealand show across a great many countries in the Pacific, and we have a responsibility to those countries, many of them quite small I think, to be actively involved and to support and help them. What would be great would be if the Prime Minister would return himself to the Pacific Forum at every other level. Fiji has re-engaged, and I think given that Fiji is quite a significant economy in the Pacific, it would be great to see them return, but there's no way New Zealand will be leaving the Pacific Forum.
Prime Minister, would you be able to highlight some of the issues discussed with the Leader of Opposition?
Yeah, the Leader of the Opposition raised concerns, as you would naturally expect, in areas like the role of the opposition, raised some issues in relation to human rights, was concerned about the expulsion and suspension of members of the opposition, and just generally the speed at which legislation is passing through the parliamentary chamber without, she believed, enough scrutiny. And as I said to the Leader of the Opposition, fundamentally at the core of it, while New Zealand can understand some of those issues and we seek to understand them better and give support, we're here to try and help both the government and the opposition. People come to New Zealand for training and for support and those kinds of things, and we'll continue to behave in that way where we can try and allow this democracy, which I think is evolving, to evolve at a faster pace and to the highest standard possible.
Will you be beefing up the help you provide at all in that department?
Sorry,
Will you be beefing up the help you provide?
We're certainly happy to have more people come to New Zealand and to give more support. We already have quite a few people coming. In fact, the opposition's coming to New Zealand, I think, very soon. So there's plenty of encouragement and support for people. But at the core of it, we have very good institutions in New Zealand, a great capacity to help build those institutions here in Fiji. I think this is, as I said earlier, a democracy that's evolving, and we just need to get that to the highest standard in the quickest possible period of time.
Stop there. Thanks, Minister.